I'm pleased to say I'm joined by one of the debutantes in the US Darts Masters this week, Alex Spellman. Thanks for the time, Alex. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, and we're talking only a few days away from the US Darts Masters, your debut in the World Series. What are the overriding emotions as we talk now ahead of you making that walk onto the stage at Madison Square Garden? Is it nerves, excitement, a mixture of both?
I'm kind of known for being generally kind of stoic in my approach to the game, not a lot of emotion. And I would have thought at this point I'd start feeling some of the nerves, maybe nerves isn't, but that just that feeling of, it's a big event. You want to play well. You can win if you play well. And I don't know. At the moment, I don't really feel much of anything, but I'm sure the second that I walk into the arena, that'll start to, creep in a little bit. So as of right now, I'm nice and good and ready to go, but that may change in about 48 hours.
Well, for yourself, it's been quite a long wait for you because your spot as one of the qualifiers came via winning that CDC Continental Cup back in October of last year. So what has that long wait been like, waiting for this event to finally come round?
Having that long break has actually been really good for me. Around the Continental Cup time last year, I was kind of going through some issues at work, and I didn't know how the outlook of that was going to go. I didn't know if I, was ready to leave or work some stuff out there. And my game kind of took a hit, kind of actually starting around the Continental Cup time. So my standard wasn't as high as some people had seen leading into it. And it wasn't really up until the beginning of April that, I finally left my job. Not left my job for darts, but just was ready to leave and do something else. But ever since then, my game has been on the rise. Had a great momentum builder at Modus. Built on that at Challenge Tour. While the results weren't necessarily there at Challenge Tour, the quality of play was. And then the CDC, believe it was last weekend, had a win. I think all but maybe 2, maybe 3 of my matches were below 90. So the high quality and consistency of play has been a lot better for me the last couple of weeks, which is perfect because this coming weekend is when I'm going to need that quality.
Definitely, and we'll come on to this year in a moment, but no doubt it's going to be a special moment for you and your time playing darts when you do make that walk later this week. But let's rewind to the very start for you in darts. Where did it all begin? How and when did you get introduced to the game?
So I don't know if they have blind draws over in Europe, where you get it's pairs and you get a random partner. But I was going to college in the town where I was born, here in North Carolina where I live. I didn't even really notice the people in the back playing darts, but they were short a person, and I was the only person they could find that was willing to join them. And I can't remember if I got first or second that night, but I know I made the finals and realized I could probably make more money playing my little local tournament than I was working at the grocery store. So I kind of stuck with it for some side cash, and turns out I had a knack for it. And that was about 2008, I believe. So I guess in total time, I've now been in the game for 15 years, but it wasn't really until the last 2 or 3 that I decided to take it more serious. I was always more of if it was a 2-hour drive, I'd go play, but I wasn't really trying to travel around the country and chase ranking points or anything like that.
Well, in terms of a sporting background, then you said you got into darts when you were at college. Was there any other sports you were involved in at the time or before then?
So in high school, I did baseball and basketball. I did some cross-country running, but I only did that to get in shape for basketball. But basketball, baseball was always, I was a pitcher. I played pretty much every position, but it was primarily a pitcher. And basketball, my skill set was shooting. So I guess that translates over into darts, whether it's shooting a basketball into a hoop or pitching and trying to hit a spot, it all translates. I didn't want to do that in college. I had a couple offers for some smaller schools to play either baseball or basketball, but it was the choice of do I do the sports, but then you kind of lose out on the college experience because a lot of, I don't know how they do it over there, but over here, it was if you're a student athlete, they wouldn't allow us to work. You had a curfew, all that kind of stuff. I don't drink, so I didn't have to worry about missing out on that part of the college lifestyle. But I just decided it was better for me to just do those things for fun and enjoy my time in school. And I'm glad I did, because otherwise I wouldn't have met my wife, and I may have never gotten into the game of darts. So I feel like it worked out for me making that decision.
Yeah, it definitely worked out well. And getting back to the darts then, 2015, we see the CDC founded. It brings a professional steel tip tour to North America, if you like. And you mentioned there, to begin with, you weren't travelling beyond 2 hours. So when did you start to get involved in those events? Was it more the local ones to you that you started playing in?
Around the time, the first year, I was actually a tour card holder for the CDC. I followed darts. Even though I didn't travel to play in the big events, I still kind of followed what other people were doing. But when there was a professional thing coming up, I always knew what my potential was, and I also knew that you can't really reach that potential just by working on like your mechanics and form and all that stuff at home. You have to get match experience against quality players and top level, and you can't get that without going. So for the first year and a half of the CDC, I went to every event, but some work scheduling got in the way, and it kind of disallowed me from playing pretty much up until around COVID time. So I took quite a long break, worked on my game, and then now I'm taking advantage of, what the CDC's grown to be. I supported it that first year knowing that I wasn't going to win, but I wanted it to be there for me when I figured the game out. And I guess that's where we're at now.
Yeah, and you've had some big wins over the last few years in the CDC. One of them, the shootout in 2021. You beat a tour card holder at the time, Danny Baggish, in the final. What did that win mean to you, one of those first big titles that you were able to pick up?
A couple things. Danny was, a tour card holder at the time, so obviously being able to compete with and beat someone on the tour makes you feel like maybe you could do it too. But I have a lot of pride in the quality of play. I tell people all the time that I focus more on the quality of my play than the result of it. If I can hold a 95 average, I'm going to be competitive in every single match I play. I may not win every match I play, but I'm going to be competitive, and that's all I can really ask for at the moment. But I believe in that match. I think it's a double in, double out event over 6 legs. I think I shot somewhere around a 92, 93, which is it's tough to do in a double in, double out event. But I want to say I think it was my first CDC win, even though it wasn't a main tour stop. It was still my first CDC win, and that first step in the momentum of building your game.
And another win that we've got to mention as well. I know we're coming on to this week, Madison Square Garden on the stage live on TV, but you've had some experiences playing in front of the cameras already, and one of them last year, the ESPN Ball Shooter Invitational, a soft tip event that you won. Talk to us about that win.
The off camera was really difficult for different reasons. You have some of the best players in the country there. Soft tip is a bit of an equalizer with the targets being larger, so it's harder to win in some ways because everybody can hit big. But going onto the TV, it was weird. I've never been a person that's been afraid to be in front of crowds, like public speaking or anything like that. So being on TV, it didn't bother me, and it's not too dissimilar from doing a lot of the live streaming that we do, like during COVID and even now still through some online leagues. It's being broadcast out there. Maybe there's not millions of people watching, but there's still a decent number. So it didn't feel that much different. I was super comfortable, but the second I stepped to the line for the first time, I was super confident, but then you have this thought in your head of, but what if I suck? And then for whatever reason, that thought was like, I just wanted to play good. I wanted to show off the game of darts on ESPN, even though it was soft tip, and I prefer steel and all that, but you still want to market the game. You want to play to the best of your ability, and that caused me to be a little more anxious than I was expecting to be. If I'm nervous or anxious or whatever you want to call it this coming weekend. I feel like it's going to be less about me and the situation and more wanting to play well for all the people that are there supporting me. If I can kind of put that behind me and just focus on the task at hand, then I don't know, then maybe I can make them proud.
Definitely. Well, one thing that we have seen from yourself is that you are able to come back and produce comebacks when defeat looks like it's on the way, and we've got to go back to the Continental Cup, back to the CDC in October, back to Steel Tip. Right. The final against Doug Baines, 7-3 down in a race to 8. You win 5 legs in a row to win the title. What was it like to pull off a comeback like that, and as it turned out, a spot on the line in that game for the US Darts Masters as well?
You know, it's weird, like the spot in the Masters and even the title itself, in the moment wasn't even really in it wasn't like in my viewpoint, just because I was down 7-3 and I was expecting to lose the match. It's just that it doesn't matter if it's the Continental Cup or any other match. I try to treat every single match the same, no matter what. I'm just trying to win that game, that leg, and then move on to the next one. I'm not trying to think ahead or think of what, because if you know what you're playing for and you think about it too much, it just makes it that much harder to get over the finish line. But during that match, even though I was down 7-3, I was getting frustrated because my darts felt really good. They just weren't falling for me, and I kind of was. I wasn't emotionally upset or angry or anything like that. It was just a feeling of, okay, maybe this isn't my day. But a lot of people will kind of see me talk to myself or yell at myself a little bit, but it's all coaching. There's no emotion behind it. It's knowing I can do better, and it's me telling myself to do better. And I just kind of stuck with that, through that match, and took it one game at a time. I knew my darts felt good, and all of a sudden they started falling for me. I think I went 13-14 to tie it up at 7-7, and you have a lot of confidence going into that last leg. Your opponent knows that you've just gone on a good run. All the pressure's on them. Just to be in that position to even win the match, I feel like I'm free rolling. I'm playing freely there. All the pressure's on the other guys. So, I don't know. It just comes with confidence in your game, knowing that you can dig out of anything. So if I'm down 5, I don't know I can't remember what the race is. If it's race to 5, race to 6. Well, if I'm down 4-0, I genuinely believe I can come back and win that match 5-4 or whatever, because I've done it before.
Well, that was a great win, and it brings us on to this year, 2023. We're not even halfway through the year yet, but possibly, or it's on course to be the busiest year you've had in darts. And starting off with a first trip to Q School, you got down to the last 8 on one of the days of the final stage. Right. You weren't far off a card on that day, but what were your biggest takeaways from that week at Q School? That was around that time frame where my darts weren't very good because I kind of had some outside influences and it's hard to play your best if you're not really in the mood to be playing darts. But I still was able to pull out some quality matches. I had some really good ones. Like Guian Van Veen is playing. I think he's the best player pretty much this month as far as like averages are concerned. He's playing at an incredibly high level, and I played a really good match and beat him. And just playing with some of the best and being able to compete with them when you know that you're not quite at your best. Even when I was losing matches, I felt like I brought my B game and I was competitive. If I can bring my A game or my A plus game, I can actually do some damage. So you're walking away from this losing more than you want, but you're building confidence and you're getting hungrier to come back better because you know that next time you're going to be better, and next time that loss is maybe turns into a win. So I've just kind of been taking every experience so far in Europe with that perspective. Definitely. Well, you've had a few more trips to Europe. You mentioned it, the Challenge Tour. You've already made a semi-final on that this year. The Modus League, you've played in that as well. But I want to touch on as well, you've got the chance to play in a couple of the Players' Championships as well, at a first taste of the Pro Tour. What memories have stuck with you from those few days, being in the same as a lot of the best in the world?
It was really weird because you think you kind of go in there and be a little starstruck, and maybe some would be, but maybe it's because I've seen these guys on TV for a decade or more. You already feel like you kind of know them, and I don't know. It felt incredibly comfortable being for whatever reason. And maybe it's, what to expect out of these guys. Like if I go to Q school, I may not have heard of most of these people, so I don't know who's really good, who's maybe kind of good. You don't always know what to expect. If I walk into the room and I'm warming up on the board with Rob Cross and Ricky Evans, and I think it was Soljevic. I already know what these guys can do, so I'm not. I'm not thinking about what they're doing. I'm just thinking about what I'm doing. But I had a really awful weekend in Hildesheim in general. The jet lag hit me really hard that weekend. I felt like I was trying to fall asleep during the Challenge Tour events, but I wasn't going to turn down even if I was awful, I wasn't going to turn down the opportunity to play in the Players Championship. But I had little moments of confidence building there, where, like I said, I was warming up on a board with Rob Cross and those guys, and Rob makes fun of me because he says that I throw really slow, like molasses, like watching paint dry. Just kind of making fun of me, but then he taps, he just kind of hits me on the shoulder and he's like, well, you hit everything you're shooting at, so I guess it's okay. I was warming up. I think he said that after I had done like 180, 140, 180, 180 while we're practicing and that. But just like little things, just hearing stuff like that from guys at his caliber, it makes you feel like you're doing something good. And but everybody was really friendly. Really enjoyed it. I wish I was in better form when I was there. I feel like if I was able to get another crack the way I'm playing now, which fortunately I will be this weekend, maybe I can do a little better this time.
As you touched on earlier as well, you're currently taking a break from work as well to focus on the darts for a short period at the moment. How difficult a decision was that to make?
It was kind of a mutual decision with my job, so that made it actually a lot easier. So it kind of freed me up pretty much. So I left my job the Friday before I went to Otis, and that's pretty much when my dart started taking back up, because now the stress of having to make that decision was gone. And so it's been stressful, but in a good way, because now you're thinking, like, what do I want to do next? Do I want to stay working in IT? Do I want to, start looking at the dart world more seriously, either as a player or, in some other industry involved with the game? So it's good stress to have, because you have a lot of options and you want to choose the right one for you. But as far as the game itself, now that I can actually focus and enjoy the game and not have to worry about that outside stress, like I said, my game has just been back on the rise. The confidence is there again. So yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to seeing if it continues to get better. Good
to hear. Well, we'll finish up with a look back to this week, and you mentioned a moment ago about you had a bit of friendly banter with Rob Cross on the Pro Tours. He's in the field in New York this week. When we were talking, we don't know who you're going to be playing. Would you like to play Rob, or if you had a choice, is there someone you've got your eye on?
I don't. I mean, I would love to play, the big two guys, arguably one of the best ever, in MVG. You have the reigning world champion. If I can go up there and I can beat the number one in the world, if I'm lucky enough, then, that's going to be an amazing confidence boost. I know it's only one match, but, hey, you beat them once, you can beat them again, right? But honestly, all the players that are coming over are incredible for, different reasons. I haven't really thought about it. I do think a quicker player like a Michael Smith, even though I wouldn't say I'm slow, I'm more like a Peter Wright speed versus a Justin Pipe speed, but someone that they can kind of keep me in rhythm might be best for me. But I don't have any preference at the moment.
We shall see when the draw comes out. And just lastly, not only the US Darts Masters this week, there's also the North American Championship, the winner getting a spot in the Grand Slam, and the World Championship later this year. 3 wins will get you there. It's in all 8 players' sights. So what would that title mean to you?
Oh, it mean a lot, even if just only for the bragging rights for a little bit. But also, the chance to play in the World Championships. These are not necessarily goals for me. I still treat the game as a hobby for now. And it's like playing it like a video game. You play an easy mode, and then once you beat that, then you move on to the next, medium and the hard and expert or whatever. I'm trying to level up and see how far I can push my game. And I accepted the Players Championship spot in Hildesheim, knowing I was playing awful. It was because you may never get that opportunity again. So winning the North American Championship gets me the spot in the worlds, and you never know if you get that opportunity ever again. So it would mean a lot for me just for that experience of being there. But it's going to be really tough. Obviously, you have seasoned guys like Jeff Smith and Matt Campbell, and I consider Matt to be pretty clearly the best North American we have. I know some of the newer names on there, a lot of Europeans won't be familiar with, but another person that could, I don't want to say easily, but it would not be a surprise to me and maybe a lot of people, is Jason Brandon is somebody to look out if he wins the North American Championship, and if he wins the first, one of the first rounds of the Masters, it wouldn't surprise me in the least that he's a little more unknown outside of the United States, but he's always my toughest competition. So I'm kind of hoping I get to play him. I don't want to play him in the first round, but it would be nice to maybe play him a little later, and maybe even in the final. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds. Alex, it's a pleasure to chat to you. We appreciate the time, and congratulations on what you've achieved in the game so far, and we wish you all the best, not just for this week at New York, but for what else is to come this year as well.
Yep, I appreciate it. Anytime.